25th day of November. Very good morning to you. I hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for joining us right here at Kirk in the morning. My name is Faith Kaulu. Do stay with us till the end of this program. Definitely have a wholesome program lined up for you. I'd like to hear from you where you're watching us from this wonderful day. Do interact with us on our social media pages. That is Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll be having a look at your comments as we go through. But right about now, let's have a look at the traffic updates. Well, let's start by having a look at the Nairobi Expressway. Such a savior right there, because traffic is clear on the Nairobi Expressway, just doing what it was meant to do in the first place. Let's move down to Langata Road and have a look at Langata Road. There's a bit of a snarl up at the roundabout of Langata Road headed to Olesengale Link Road, as well as the Ngathi Avenue, but it is moving. A bit of snarl up, but it's moving. Anyway, the whole of Langata Road, probably from Karen to Mbagathi Way, clear as day. The road is clear, no traffic snarl up. However, things are moving. Well, let's move to Ngong Road and have a look at how are things on that side. A bit of snarl up at the Mbagathi Ngong Road roundabout right there, as well as linking to the Kindaruma Road, a bit of traffic. However, the rest of the way, there's just a bit of snarl up moving, yes, but slowly. So if you're planning to use the Ngong Road, be prepared to stay on the road in some of the areas, especially linking up to the different roads, Oledume Road, coming all the way to Mbagathi Road as well. The roundabout right there has a bit of snarl up. Let's have a look at Jogoo Road. How are things moving for guys who are trying to beat time and get to office on time? Well, Jogoo Road to Makadara, there's a bit of snarl up. However, things are moving slowly but surely. We can say there's a bit of hope. So if you're planning to use Jogoo Road, spare some time, leave home early, because there's a bit of snarl up. However, things are moving. Things do not look too bad on the roads this morning. While Juja Road clear as day as well. Ring Road in Ngara, things are moving very clearly. Now, before we end it here with the traffic updates, Muthaiga Road, we're having a look here and we see that there's a bit of traffic snarl up right there. However, the rest of the road is clear. Now you're up to date on what is ongoing on our roads. That's it for the traffic updates. Well, right about now, let's have a look at the newspaper reviews, what's up on our dailies. And we start with the Daily Nation. Right on top of their cover page is a photo of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga. Right there in very bold letters is Raila cornered. We'll be having a look at that story, but down below is the story of the IEBC 4. This is Juliana Cherera, IEBC Vice Chairperson, along Justice Nyang'aya, Irene Masit, and Commissioner Wanderi Kamau. Well, in a little space at the left is a matter about the CDF, topic that has been ongoing, and the DOPIC crisis. We'll be looking at that as well. But let's have a look at the major story on the front page. This is Raila cornered, and they say that Raila Odinga, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga, is not sitting pretty, with most of his political strongholds restless and at risk of being snatched from him. Some of his key allies, particularly those from Coast, Western and Mount Kenya, are already pledging loyalty to President William Ruto. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta's deafening silence is not helping matters. As things stand, the opposition chief is a man under siege. A story on that is on the page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Now, some of the things highlighted about the man under siege is the governors pledging loyalty to President Ruto, Jubilee plotting fresh path away from the Azimio coalition, risk of losing 2.2 million Western vote bloc, Kalonzo and Oparanya pressure for 2027 support, Uhuru silence amid implosion in coalition, the fight to save the IEBC for something that we'll be looking at as well on the pages of the Daily Nation, and the lack of job opportunities to absorb allies who failed in the elections. Well, man under siege indeed. Before we get to his story on pages 4 and 5 in the Daily Nation, let's have a look at a story about the athletics ban. Now, Kenya to know her fate next week. A photo of the Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba right there addressing Sports Federation. Now, Kenya will have to wait longer to know the fate of the country's athletes after a global meeting to discuss rising doping cases. So this is something that will be a fate that will be decided next week for Kenya. And still on the second page, 17-year jail term against ex-NOC official quashed. An interesting story. I'd like to have a look at it. Now, here's a story that catches my attention on page 3 of the Daily Nation. Pangani's brutal crime buster Rashid to be charged with murder, IPOA says. Now, in case you're new to this story, this is the story about Rashid, a man who dealt ruthlessly, with crime in the areas of Pangani, Eastleigh and its environs. Now, after a 5-year reign of terror characterized by shooting of suspected criminals, one of Kenya's most controversial police officer, Ahmed Rashid, is set to have his day in court. Now, Rashid, a sergeant attached to Pangani Police Station in Nairobi, who has for years ran one of the most feared crack units in Kenya, will soon be charged with murder. This is according to the police watchdog. Definitely a story rather that is getting mixed reaction, because on one hand, indeed, it is said that how he dealt with criminals was brutal. But on the other hand, he helped secure the area away from criminal activities. A story raising conflicting views right there. Get yourself a copy of the Daily Nation. Go through the story. Get to understand about the Pangani's brutal crime buster who is now facing murder charges for allegedly performing his duty. Still on page 3 of the Daily Nation, Camry polluting cooking fuels kills 23,000 annually. Such as shocking statistics about polluting cooking fuels, even as we continue to talk about environmental crisis. We have a story about power blackout hits many parts of the country. Yesterday, of course, there was a blackout in many parts of the country, which was explained a matter of concern. Well, is it something we should be concerned about or not? Get yourself a copy, indulge on the details as captured in the Daily Nation. Now we get to the page 4 and 5 of the main story that has been highlighted on the front page of the Daily Nation. The man under siege, Raila Odinga, right there in a photo that they've used from his presser yesterday. Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga is flanked by his deputy Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka right there, and Professor Makau Mutoa. Now, a story about Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga, whose political stability is facing a major test in his 3 decades in politics following his August 9th election loss to President William Ruto. As we see politicians aligned to the Azimio coalition now pledging alliance to Kenya Kwanza and President William Ruto. Key issues that have been highlighted, what ODM chief is grappling with, include governors pledging loyalty to President William Ruto, Jubilee plotting a new path away from the Azimio la Umoja coalition, risk of losing 2.2 million Western vote bloc, as we saw a meeting held recently by Western leaders from both fronts. This is from the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio la Umoja coalition as well. Kalonzo Oparanya put pressure on him for 2027 support. Who is he going to support? Will it be Kalonzo Musyoka or Oparanya, who's now pledged alliance or allegiance to the Kenya Kwanza and President William Ruto as well, to the Western politics? Uhuru's silence amid Azimio's implosion is a matter of concern, but as we all know, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been busy with peacekeeping mission in of course, the DRC as well as Ethiopia and other areas. So could be his silence is because he's busy, but also his silence is a matter of concern amid the threatenings from the Jubilee party of plotting a new path away from the Azimio coalition. Perhaps he should come out and say something. And lack of job opportunities to absorb allies who failed in elections. A question arising from that is that could be those who were expecting to be given positions in the Azimio la Umoja government are pledging allegiance now to the Kenya Kwanza government in order to get job positions, or is it really, are they faithful to the Kenya Kwanza Commission, Kenya Kwanza Alliance? Rather, a question to be answered, or rather a question that will be answered only in time. An interesting story right there on page 6 about the GMO issue, a discussion that has been ongoing. Now, Ruto handlers move to end Rift MPs dissent on maize. Interesting right there. I think for me, what I agree and believe on is that the GMO issue should not be handled politically. We need a sober engagement on that issue as well. So it's a story that get yourself a copy of the Daily Nation, get through it, read it, and get to understand what's currently facing the nation on matters GMO, where different politicians stand as well. Now we get to page 8 of the Daily Nation, where the story about the IEBC4 has been captured there. Azimio lawyers stage walkout as IEBC4 dismiss hearing. Is this a wise move? Perhaps we'll get to judge by how things will end up. But the IEBC4, of course, dismissed the hearing, and Azimio lawyers, Azimio politicians and the lawyers of the IEBC4 walked out of a hearing yesterday. Now, this is a story, page 8 seems to be dedicated rather to the IEBC4 story, because then there's a photo there of the IEBC Vice Chairperson Juliana Cherera with a story on comments from Raila, who says President Ruto is on a revenge mission to get the IEBC4, who came out publicly to denounce the results of the August 9th general elections. Now, of course, according to Raila Odinga, President William Ruto is on a revenge mission and a witch hunt against individuals who did not back his August 9th presidential bid. Opposition leaders claim so. Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader cited the petitions against the 4 top officials of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as an example of the Kenya Kwanza crackdown on institutions and individuals the regime thinks did not dance to its tune during the campaigns. An interesting piece right there. I'd love to have a look at, rather also urge you to have a look at on later. Just to touch on very briefly, on page 9 is a story about Nairobi land rates that are expected to double from January next year. A story, if you own land or property in Nairobi, you need to have a look at and know how it's going to affect you. Well, get yourself a copy of the Daily Nation, a story I'd like to look at that has been captured both in the Daily Nation and in the Standard, though not in the top stories, though nothing related to politics, but a story of activism rather against gender-based violence, how we ended up on the streets of Nairobi, homeless and hapless. The story has been captured there about victims of gender-based violence, now survivors of gender-based violence, has been captured there. Remember that we're still on the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Rather, perhaps that's why the story has been captured very well on the Daily Nation. Well, that's it for the newspaper review on the Daily Nation. We move to the Standard. Let's see what's on their top page, and we have a look at still a photo of Raila Odinga, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition presidential candidate. Raila to Ruto, you will not take us back to dark days. This is what Raila is saying about William Ruto and the witch hunt, as he calls it, against the IEBC 4. Now, opposition leaders rail at government for what they declare is persecution of 4 IEBC commissioners. This, they feel, close back gains made over the years, and vow they're ready to push back in defense of democracy. That's on the top page of the Standard newspaper. Still on the top page of the Standard newspaper is a story about the national examinations. Remember, this year students will be sitting for 3 different national examinations. This is the Kenya KCSE, KCPE, as well as the KPSEA, rather the KPSEA, for the grade 6 who are transitioning to junior high school. So it's a story right there about the national examination. It's all system go, as 3.3 million prepare to sit national examinations as well. A special report on why gender violence ends with you. Right, why gender violence ends with you. A special report right there, even as we are on the 16 activism days against gender-based violence. Well, let's have a look at what's inside the Standard newspaper. Of course, the top story has been captured in page 6 of the Standard newspaper. We'll be getting to that, but before that, let's have a look at a story that I had concerns on as well. A story about the size of the delegation that went to the COP27 from Kenya, and there's a review right there. Well, there's also a story about Kenya's own Hollywood actress Lupita Nyong'o from Lupita's swimming training for film is all in a day's work. This is from a video that she shared on her Instagram on how she prepared for the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. A video that indeed caught the attention of many people, just to see the hard work she put in all that. And there's a story as well on Deputy President Rigath's wife, whose security officers assaulted a journalist at a public event yesterday. A story on media freedom that has been captured on the Standard newspaper right there. Well, an interesting story right here that I'd like to hear your views on. Now, on page 4, there's a story about state to arm chiefs in northern Kenya to battle the bandit menace. And there's a photo right there of the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, Deputy IG of Police Nur Gabo. This is when they were in Wajir and Isiolo areas yesterday. Now, according to this piece of information, is that chiefs and their assistants serving in areas affected by banditry will be issued with firearms to support security officers in fighting the banditry menace. Is this a right move really from the government? Is something I'd like to hear your views and opinion on. But the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki says the move will be preceded by a thorough vetting. So they won't just be handed over the firearms, but there will be a thorough vetting process before the administrators are handed over the firearms. The thorough vetting process is just to ascertain their suitability in the use of the weapons in a responsible manner. Well, an interesting story right there. Get yourself a copy of the Standard, get to read through, understand, and digest that piece of information. And still a story on the national government CDF. Of course, the members of parliament are still on the fight. They want the NGCDF to be in the constitution. Now, still on this fight, the National Assembly has appointed 11 members to serve in the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee that seeks to entrench in the Constitution the National Government Constitution Development Fund. This is the NGCDF. Now, Senate Oversight Fund and Economic Stimulus Empowerment Fund. So those are 3 different funds that will be entrenched in the Constitution. Of course, if this goes through, this includes the CDF, the Senate Oversight Fund. Of course, the Senate has been asking for that, and the Economic Stimulus Empowerment Fund. According to the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, who called on the Senate to appoint a similar number of members so as to ensure a bicameral approach on the matter. Mr. Ichung'wah says that Anchor Boy MP Samuel Chepkonga will serve as the committee co-chair among other members of the parliament. An interesting read right there. It seems the members of the National Assembly are not giving up on the fight to get the CDF funds entrenched in the constitution. Remember, this is a battle that has been ongoing for a while after the funds were declared illegal. Now on page 6 of the Standard is the top story, the story that is on their front page, a story of the Azimio leaders who, in very bold letters right there, the leading topic is, "Will stop you from taking us to dark past." Raila warns Ruto. Of course, Raila calls the IBC4 case ongoing. He calls it a witch hunt from the Kenya Kwanza government because they did not support the outcome of the August 9th general elections. Now, the removal of IBC Commission from office, if you're wondering, the case that is ongoing, the hearing that has been ongoing, the reasons that have been presented for the removal of the 4 IEBC commissioners include serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, contravention of Chapter 6, gross misconduct, physical or mental incapacity, incompetence, and bankruptcy. Those are just some of the reasons that would lead to the removal of an IEBC commissioner from office. And now, how to execute the removal of an IEBC commissioner? The process as well is well constituted. It says a petition will be presented to the National Assembly detailing reasons for seeking removal, and that is what we are witnessing. A petition was presented to the National Assembly seeking to remove the 4 IEBC commissioners, and the hearing is ongoing. Now, after a petition has been presented, what next? This is how the parliament will react to the petition presented seeking to remove any commissioner of IEBC from office. Now, the House will consider the petition. Upon the House's satisfaction that grounds are sufficient for removal from office, Parliament then shall forward the petition to the President. Now, possible actions that are to be taken, likely to be taken by the President. The President may suspend the commissioner pending the outcome of the complaint, or appoint a tribunal to look into the conduct of the said commissioner, or act on recommendations from the tribunal within 30 days after receiving its report. Now, so after the hearing from the National Assembly, the House will act on it, and then if they approve or found sufficient grounds, forward it to the President. Well, the President then may suspend the commissioner, or rather appoint a tribunal to look into the conduct of the said commissioner and act according to the report of the tribunal within 30 days after receiving the report. Now, this tribunal that will be appointed by the President to look into the conduct of an IEBC commissioner who is facing the removal of office will constitute of a chairperson and members. So at least 2 persons who are qualified to be High Court judges will be part of the members of the tribunal, and 1 member qualified to assess facts in respect to the ground for removal. Now, the chairperson has to be a person who holds or has held office as a judge of a superior court. So it's not just anyone who's appointed to be part of the tribunal, but has to be persons qualified to be High Court judges, and the chair needs to hold office or has held office at some point as a judge of a superior court. Benefits of commissioners while suspended: they will earn 50% of their pay plus benefits that come with holding the office. So this is what is happening with the IBC4 currently. Petition was presented in the National Assembly and hearing is ongoing. Well, a story about that on page 6 of the Standard, of course, with views from the Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga, who calls it a witch hunt from the Kenya Kwanza government. Well, now from the IEBC4, who have now been termed as the Cherera 4, they say that the committee lacks jurisdiction to hear petitions on ouster. Indeed, the Cherera 4 are now fighting back, trying to still hold office. Well, let's move on from that story and have a look at page 8 of the Standard newspaper. Story right there about NEC, who say exams will be fair and warns over any plans of cheating or irregularities in the upcoming national examination. An interesting story, right, still on page 6 about matters justice, is that court have dismissed the election petition against Didmas Barasa. Now, a court has dismissed a petition contesting the election of Kimilili Member of Parliament, Didmas Barasa. An interesting story right there. Get yourself grab a copy of the Standard newspaper and have a look at it. We'll end it with page 12 of the Standard newspaper, a story about gender-based violence, or just gender violence. Still, the Standard newspaper highlights it very well. It is everybody's business to make a difference on gender violence. And they say that gender violence ends with you. So do not rely upon anyone else to bring an end to gender-based violence. It relies on you to add your voice and to make a difference on matters bringing an end to gender violence. They highlight 5 types of gender-based violence. We'll just have a look at them. Of course, domestic violence, where according to statistics and research, 41% of married women and 11% of married men in Kenya have reported being victims of either domestic violence or sexual abuse. Sexual violence is number 2, where 14% of Kenyan women and 6% of Kenyan men aged between 15 to 49 years have experienced sexual violence at least once in their lifetime. Such sad statistics right there. Now, the different types of gender-based violence: domestic violence, sexual violence, sexual, psychological, and physical exploitation and abuse, female genital mutilation, and socioeconomic violence. An interesting read right there, of course, as we are still on the campaign of 16 days against gender-based violence. They have very well highlighted 16 issues on that story. Quite an engaging read. So get yourself a copy of the Standard newspaper or Daily Nation to engage fully on the stories that have highlighted. That's all for today on the newspaper review segment. We're taking a very short break, but do not go too far, because when we come back, we'll be delving into a topic of discussion today. Church, a moral compass, is quite an interesting discussion. I'd like to hear from you. Where do you think this matters? How should the church handle morality issues is the main question of today's discussion. Do keep it right here. Kirk Mid-Morning with me, Faith Kaulu, continues after this short break.
If the church is not first refined, there is need first to refine the spiritual side of our nation through the church. That is by rebuilding the broken lives, taking the word of God to the people, preaching peace, preaching salvation, connecting the people to God. We are agents of change. We are agents of refinement.
It's Christmas already here at Kirk TV, the season of cheer and goodies. Are you a church organization and would like to air your end of year and New Year services? Are you thinking of reaching a wider audience and showcasing your Christmas cantatas and concerts? Have you thought about showcasing your Sunday school services to the entire country? Then, Kirk TV is offering you the end year advert bonanza. We will cover and broadcast all the above events at up to 50% off our normal rates starting this October till January 2023. Usiwachwe nyuma hii Krisi. Call our sales team now on 0738-278-506 or 0739-971-607. Send an email bnkogie@kirktv.org or munyoroku@kirktv.org for more information. Hurry and book now. Pamoja tuvuke mwaka. It's the Kirk TV End Year New Year Advert Bonanza. It's Christmas already here at Kirk TV. Are you a business looking to advertise your brand and products to potential customers? Are you looking to improve your sales as we end the year? Starting this October till January 31st, 2023, we are offering you, our customer, various discounts up to 50% off our advertising rates. Imagine paying half the price to reach customers countrywide. Usiwachwe nyuma hii krisi. Call our sales teams now on 0738 278 506 or 0739 971 607. Contact us on email bnkogie@kirktv.org or munyoroku@kirktv.org for more information. Hurry and book now. Pamoja tuvuke mwaka. It's the Kirk TV and your advert bonanza.
If you love singing, if you love dancing, if you love sports, all this will be in Kirk Watoto Season 2. Don't you dare miss it.
Kirk Watoto Season 2 is coming. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Peace. Kirk Watoto, yay! Let all the children come to me, because in the land
I'm going to tell everyone.
I was counting on it.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
welcome back and thank you so much for keeping it Kirk Mid-Morning. Right about now we get to our main discussion of today, and you want to have a look at the church as a moral compass and get to understand everything surrounding that. And joining me this morning to discuss this is Reverend John Gatu, the director of the TEE department. Thank you so much, Rev, for being here.
You're welcome.
How are you this morning?
This morning I'm fine. I woke up well and I'm happy to be here in Kirk TV.
Right.
Yes.
Which team are you supporting in the World Cup?
I've not yet decided, but I was very much impressed yesterday. I slept late watching Brazil.
All right.
Yeah, and I think my favorites of this World Cup, yes. Yes.
Right, so let's get to talk about the church as a moral compass. I think first of all, my first question would be, what does that mean, the church being a moral compass?
I would say that Jesus himself talked about Christians and the church being the light of the world and the salt of the world in Matthew chapter 5. And I think that's what it all means, that we need some illumination to the issues that are there in the world. We need some guidance. People are confused. The world is confused. We are living at a time when people are talking about personal rights, their personal space, everything goes. And I think in terms of whatever is right or wrong, there is no basis. And I think this is where the church should come in to remind people that we need to observe some things, to do things right, and that's what we are saying, being the light of the world and being the salt of the earth. Yes.
All right. Interesting conversation right there. But let's have a look, as we're saying that the church is the light.
Yes.
And the church is what we'd call the moral compass in our society, where it can say this is wrong, this is right, this is acceptable, and this is not. But then in what can I use? How it deals with moral issues in a way that hurts church members, because we've had people who fellowship at certain churches come publicly to rant and say I was hurt, I shared probably my struggles, and they were used as an example. So when it comes to this, how should the church respond to moral issues in a way that accommodates everyone?
I want to agree with you. Of course, there are many people who have stories of being not treated well in the church. Of course, we have had in the media even the violence, the gender-based violence, the abuses within the country and beyond. But the church is the church, so we have those issues. But I think we should not blanket that is what the church does. Those are some of the situations. But what we are talking about is what should be done.
Yes.
How should the church handle? We expect that the church is the moral compass. It shows and tells the world what is right. We have situation whereby sometimes we become complacent, sometimes we become passive. But I think Jesus did not call the church to be like that. The fact that some aspects of the church, they are doing that, does not mean it is right. Probably it is. It calls us as a church to reflect and ask ourselves: are we truly the right or the salt? I believe people who come to the church, they need to get the services that they need. They need to be treated well. People who come to seek the help from the church should go out saying, "I was helped." If they are not, we should not cover that and say the church has any excuse to not do the right. It did not do the right. So I think we should look at the case by case and see, for example, if somebody, yesterday we had a conversation somewhere and we were talking about this person who was abused by a church leader coming to seek help, probably sexually molested and so on. We were talking about a case where maybe a minor in some cases got implicated and so on. That is the church. That person is hurt. This person does not represent the church. This person is like what we call criminal in society. He is not what the church should be. And therefore I think as a church we should seek to do what is right. One way is to have this person removed from church leadership. And then if this person has done things, for example, he has abused a minor and all those things, he should be taken to that level, that this person has done crime. And it is crime. So the law should take its course. And I think what we should encourage is also who is coming to the church. Because when you talk about the church faith, what church? Which church? How did the people become church leaders? We have a problem because many people who are representing the church have not in any way been vetted by anybody. I wake up this morning and I say, I feel I don't have a job. I want to get money.
Yeah.
So I take a basket and go to a bus station and I start preaching, and I see people are giving coins, and I say, this can be a good business.
Yes.
So from there I go, and I think some of these people have nobody to supervise them. I think church should be organized in such a way that, for example, in my church, if I do things that are not right, there is a system of bringing me back, disciplining me, and even a system of telling me you are no longer able to become a pastor. I think this is the problem we have. People who call themselves church leaders are not always leaders with any, what can I say, with any supervision. And you know, even Jesus Christ, one time he sent his disciples, and they went out there. When they came back, he did some supervision. He looked at what they have done. I think it's like what we call teaching practice.
Yeah.
They went for teaching practice. They came back, they brought the results, and they were told, you people, you are not yet ripe to go. He stayed with them for another time before he sent out eventually to go into the world. So I think one of the problem we have is that we have a church that to some extent part of the church has no control. They are not submissive to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the churches should be controlled by the state, but I think there should be some internal mechanism to see and to look at what am I doing. Because we have many people, as you say, who are hurt. Yes.
Wow. I like, first of all, what you say about this individual probably who's hurt someone or who's committed a crime towards a church member is not the church.
Yes.
They're just a leader. And I like what you say, that the church should not protect this person. Because we've had such sad incidences where one will be accused, evidence will be presented, but they're untouchable because, you know, they're protected by such forces. Now, there's something you've said about the church being passive towards certain morality issues. And I'd like us to talk about this. Because today, for example, if I cannot speak against someone who's stolen, then what gives me the authority to speak about another issue if I've been passive to this one moral issue? Let's talk about the church being passive and letting things go. Is this how things should be?
I think when I say the church is passive, it is true. There are many things that we should be talking about, even in governance issues. One of the things that this nation is suffering from is corruption.
Right.
And sometimes we are not talking. I feel I go to the road and I see I'm in a matatu. All the people seated in the car are Christians, and all of us, including our church leaders, every person, whichever church, we are on those roads.
Yes.
We see even when we approach the roadblock, the driver says, "Hey, nani akona na
Mia.
Nakona so," and they say so. Nani akona so, and you see this elder, this pastor, and oh, niko nayo. What are we saying? I think we as a church, we are not doing enough, in my opinion. We are not, because who should say that is wrong?
Right.
Of course, the government makes it okay, not the government. The systems make it very difficult for you to speak, because when, for example, I am driving and my speed overreads a bit and a bit of speeding.
Yeah.
I was rushing probably to a funeral or something. I'll be kept there by these police for the whole day. They'll be saying, "Kama huogei kapale, kama huogei kapale." The right thing becomes very expensive.
Yeah.
But I think it should not be the individual, but we, the church, as the church, as the church community, let me say even religious community. We can even add the church and other religious communities. We should talk. We should speak. We should say, if somebody is arrested and we talk with the government, the system should change. We should, because I think one of the things we say is that our mission as a church is to be prophetic. To be prophetic is to speak to the issues that are facing society. If people are being harassed because they cannot bribe, that is wrong. And I think we are called to speak. Jesus in Luke chapter 4, he said, "I came to make the oppressed go free." And people are oppressed. Corruption is oppressing us. Of course, as you said, we should not protect anybody, but we should speak to these structures that perpetuate, that makes corruption so easy and doing the right thing so difficult. it is extremely difficult, Faith.
Yeah.
If you go and you say, I'm not going to bribe, and you want a title deed, and this office is very corrupt, they are going to do everything. And it's
Yeah.
like they have protection. Even if you go to the police, watakuchekera waseme, okay now. I think the system, we should, the church should speak. The religious community, we should speak. I think we should become the moral compass and tell the nation, if it is wrong, it is wrong. Because in society, in social sciences, they say that we are in what we call the postmodernism. Postmodernism rejects issues of right and wrong. They say everything is relative.
Yeah.
Everything can go. It depends. There is. That's where we are. People. But the church should come and say, yes, it depends, but the God's principles do not change. The right does not become wrong. If, for example, you talked about somebody being hurt in the church when seeking help from the church, this wrong is wrong, whether done by a bishop, by a pastor, by a policeman, by a politician. A wrong is a wrong. So I think the church should not be silent, and we should not be silent. God should help us where we have been complacent, maybe to wake up and start talking.
I know this is a huge task where when we're saying the church or religious institutions should not be silent, because we've all experienced this kind of frustrations in one way or another. Is this a battle that we can say is the responsibility of a church? Is this a battle that the church, really needs to engage in, or will it then lose its whole point of view?
I think the church is called to ensure. Okay, for me, the word mission is about doing the will of God on earth. Right. A few years ago, this country had one-party system, and we know some of our church leaders went in front and said, this is oppressive. Yeah. And because they agitated for change, the country changed. I think we should not be complacent. And this is a very, very technical time. I would say it's a complex a bit, because we are very happy. When I say we, I mean the church in general. We are saying we prayed for this government. Yes. God gave us a government. And this is true. We prayed. We prayed for peace. God gave us peaceful elections. We have leadership that at least acknowledges the will God and goes to church. And we are happy for this. And this is also dangerous for us as church, because it may blind us to see the wrongs in society, to see the situations that we should speak. I think it is upon all of us to know that our mandate is bigger than just whoever is the president. Okay. What we would have said 10 years ago, we should say now. If it's wrong, for example, and I keep saying corruption because I believe corruption is very expensive. Very expensive.
It is.
Because corruption means hospitals don't have medicine. Corruption means somebody may die who would have been saved. Yes. Corruption means somebody who would have got a job doesn't get a job. Yes. Somebody would have gone for studies beyond probably primary or secondary doesn't do that. Corruption is very expensive, and corruption costs a lot of resources. So I think if, unfortunately, Faith, you may find corruption even in churches. You may find, I don't know, but it's possible that somebody may want a leadership in church, and also he bribes his way. These things can happen. So I think it is a wake-up call to all of us that we need to re-look into ourselves and ask, are we moral the compass? Are we do we have that moral authority to speak? I think it starts with all of us. We look within. We ask ourselves, are we what we should be to the members of the church? Are we what we should be to the society? Because we are not just called to be what we are to the members, but we are called to the whole society. The society should see and feel the church. I said, and I want to repeat again, this country was changed by the church. We know Joyas and others. We know they went to the streets. We know they spoke. We know they stood in the pulpit and they said it is wrong. They found that when they stood in the pulpit, they are not being heard. They went to the street. They said, what does it cost us to say that we want to change some of these things that are there? Corruption is not in the constitution, but it's like a culture in Kenya. Do you know when you are not corrupt, unaonekana kama
something is wrong with
something is wrong. How could you take yourself to the court?
Yes.
Kwa sababu ya kitu kidogo. Kwani and it's become like a culture. So people have been inculturated into this. For me to get a job in police, I must bribe.
Yeah.
For me to get a promotion, I must bribe. Of course, we are giving this because it's the most rampant. This is not
Yes.
the only social evil we have, but this is what is happening. To an extent, for you to get a bursary for your child who is, because you are poor, you are required to sometimes
To pay.
bribe somebody so that he passes your name. Very unfortunate. So I think, as you say, we need to relook at how we are doing a prophetic role, saying what is wrong and saying what should be done.
Wow. I agree with a lot of things you're saying, that we need to start by cleaning our own house, because you mentioned that corruption happens as well in churches, and we've heard about it. We've seen articles being written where it is the financially well-off who are being given top lead positions because they're able to pay handsomely and all that. Clean our own house, then now we are able to start cleaning other houses, because you can't talk about corruption as a national issue, yet at church, that's what you do. People will, that's ridiculous. I think that's what I can say.
It's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
I also think, okay, let me say this. I'm not defending the church, but sometimes we also make the church look like it's supposed to be in heaven, not on earth. I'm saying this because if somebody in the church becomes corrupt, people say, and it can go to the headline.
Yeah.
When I say something good in church, it doesn't. But
Yeah.
if, for example, one person, the church, it becomes headline, people talk about it. But I want to remind people that Jesus had 12 disciples, and we know them. We know Peter, we know Andrew, we know Judas, and we know Judas Iscariot. And we know the Bible says this guy was not straight. He was a thief. Maybe he was corrupt. But he was a disciple. So if we have one Judas in church, doesn't mean that the church cannot speak. Jesus did not stop speaking because he had a corrupt guy inside. I think what we need to do is to look of how to minimize the probability of having a Judas.
Okay.
Those people who are spoiling the name of the church. Yes.
All right. You mentioned as well about how it is because of the church that we are where we are when it comes to when we had a single party and how the change came about.
Yes.
And I'm looking back at what those who spoke went through, you know, and you've talked about the church now being reluctant a bit, especially during the campaign season. We saw the church give the pulpit to many politicians. Now, do we still expect the church to come and speak of the evil being done by the same politicians that attended service and spoke, you know, probably left something handsomely? Let's talk about that.
We are in a dilemma, and I would say to our viewers, it is a dilemma sometimes that we create for ourselves. Because when we do not allow ourselves to be a bit separate from some of these things, we put ourselves in a dilemma. No, I'm not saying that politicians should not speak in church. I'm not saying that politicians should not come to church. Politicians, we need them in church. They should come to church. They should fellowship. But when it comes to partisan politics, whereby, for example, during the political season, we would come and say this is our candidate, I think this is wrong for the church. And because we did that, and that's why I say this is a very technical time, because we allowed ourselves to, and we did it. When I say we, it's the church.
Yes, sure.
The church did. Let me say the church so that somebody doesn't mean it's me and my friends.
Yeah.
The church allowed itself to be so much integrated with the political situation, such that I am these days going to functions and somebody is praying, and this is coming up very much. God, we thank you because we ask for good and you have given us the good leadership. When this is the perception, this good leadership, we may not see when it's going the other side. I think we need to disintegrate while not losing relationship, so that we are in a position we can look and see what is happening. We disintegrate. We are not in the governance. We are studying parallel to the government so that we can see what is happening. When I say government, it's not just the national government, it's the county government, it's the MCA, it is the social systems. We are able to see, even the hospital there in the village, you're able to see these people are getting medicine from government or from the county, and some doctor somewhere is taking to the clinic. We should speak. I think we should be, when you say the light illuminates everywhere. When this light was put on,
Yeah.
every part of this studio became illuminated. I think the church should put itself somewhere we are going to be able to see. And one of the things that we must do, and I tell my fellow church leaders, is not to integrate ourselves with political system to an extent we can't see when they are doing wrong. To an extent we cannot talk when I was talking to some my friends, and they were saying, when we say we allow all graffiti on matatus, and they are doing they are doing graffiti, the images of bang, it's called baggy or cannabis,
Yes.
that one. And it's like they are promoting it. You look at somebody smoking on the matatu, and we are there, we are saying this is creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity promoting what? You look at some of the images that they draw, and we are there. I think we should speak to all these issues and tell the leadership at all levels, let us promote what is right. And when something is wrong, we should be like those people, those our leaders that even risk, as you say, they risked. Some of them, they almost died.
Yeah.
And some of them got lifelong injuries because of speaking. It is risky. It is risky to face my governor, to face my MCA, to face my president and tell him this is wrong.
Yes.
But I think as a church, we should be like Jesus. That Jesus did not fear to suffer. Paul talks about, I have been shipwrecked, I've suffered, I have not feared, I have done all these things. I think, as you say, the church should come to a place whereby we are saying we are not afraid to suffer for the good thing and to speak the truth. Because if we don't do that, even the good people, given an opportunity to do wrong, can find themselves doing the things that are not right.
Yeah.
We have very good leadership. But if nobody is looking at them and opportunities bring themselves to do what is wrong, see what afanya? They're going to do the wrong things. They're going to divert money supposed to be for the road, for the hospital, because an opportunity comes. In fact, in my opinion, we should help the government. We should agitate for a situation whereby we also participate. For example, today we have anti-corruption mechanisms in the country, in the law, and so on. But if I find myself on the road and I'm agreeing with this policeman, where do I report? To whom do I go to report it to?
Yeah.
I go to the same policeman or his friend who was on the road. Then he has gone to the office. Now he's waiting for me to record statement. Do I get justice? What if we move to how we did the changes initially, whereby there is the government representation, there is the civil society representation, there is the church representation, such that these people listening to major corruption issues is not just one. We listen, and as we recommend, we say we have heard, and we are all saying this is wrong. Because the person from civil society will not be very quick to agree with something is wrong. Somebody from the church, and when we are together also, as you said, that sometimes we are also protecting our positions. I think we should have concerted effort, and the church should be at the forefront, in my opinion.
All right. Let's talk about prosperity gospel. I think nowadays when you just say prosperity gospel, a lot of things will come up.
Yeah.
And it is said that, this is the way that most churches are going, because when you hit the nail on the road, when you speak on certain morality issues in church, then you lose members. And in all honesty, when you lose members, you lose as well their money. So they say a lot of ministers are going this way to keep members and to attract people, because you're selling hope. So let's talk about hitting the nail on the head when you're speaking on morality issues, even in church.
You talk about prosperity gospel. I think I would say I would use one word.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do exploit our members, and I said our viewer. It is not me and my friends. It is when I say it's the church, the church leadership, wherever they are. They may be in my own denomination, in other denominations, in Kenya, outside.
Yeah.
When we tell people, if you want a miracle, you need to plant a seed. We are exploiting them. We are exploiting their vulnerability. They are in problem. They are in distress. But they are coming to us for help. And we are telling them, for me to help you, you must give. God is not bribed. It is a wrong theology. It is not right theology. In fact, the right theology in the scripture is freely given, freely give. We don't give God so that we are forcing him to bless us or to provide it to us or to do some open some door for us. No, we give in obedience. So that one also brings down our moral authority. When we are exploiting our members, can we talk about exploitation in society, exploitation in other areas of society?
Yeah.
I think it's an area that also brings us down, because if somebody has been exploited by the church financially, and he realizes this after he has lost his property, because we have those issues in media,
Yeah.
we have had these stories, and then he realizes, I was cheated. Will that person even love Christ? Have we done anything? Have we illuminated? Have we become the light of the world? We have misled. So I think, let us preach the gospel. I keep saying, where we have preached, me and others, many others,
Yeah.
and we have not talked about prosperity gospel, the church has not died. It has kept growing.
Yes.
So we do not need to sell hope. We need to give hope. We do not need to ask people to give in order to receive. We should tell people to come to Jesus, who meets their needs according to his riches in glory. We should not tell people to bring a seed so that they can reap. We should tell people to just be obedient to the word of God, and God will visit them. We don't have to relate this with the money. And when we give, we don't give because we are looking to receive. We give in obedience because it's part of our responsibility as Christians. Yes.
Where do you think, or rather, how do you think the church is doing when it comes to speaking about morality issues? You mentioned the church should be at the forefront. Currently, how do you think the church is doing?
We can do more. I would say we can do more because many times we hear these things in the media. And even after we hear them, we do not hear the church speak too much. When we hear this child was molested or sexually abused by the father, when we hear even some statements from this, our CS in is it trade? The other day he talked about GMO.
The GMO,
is just another cause of death, and it's not worrying us
Like
because
many others.
there are many others. Why shouldn't we add another one?
Yeah.
I think I was impressed by one of the part of the church. They came up and said this is not right. In fact, he should apologize. I think we should be able to condemn and to speak out. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned the church should be able. So you're saying currently there's more that could be done.
I say there is more because after these issues are raised, for example, when we see there are many things that let me not say one thing, because every day there is a situation of abuse, exploitation. Are we hearing this a lot as the church speaks? When we get an opportunity probably to do, and I think we need more of what we call press statements from the church, from the religious community, speaking to the issues in society, I think we can say more. It's called advocacy.
Yes.
We need advocacy. We need to speak for the vulnerable. We need to speak for these people. People are addicted. Sometimes people have been in this land. It's not at their fault that they have been in this land for many years. All of a sudden, a bulldozer comes at night and brings down all the structures, their businesses, their livelihood. And sometimes I don't hear us. Let me say hear us speak. And I say it's not, individually maybe we can do little, but if we come together, we have our organizations, we have the religious organizations, the interreligious bodies, ecumenical institutions. I think we can speak more. That's what I'm saying. We are not, of course, they say that the only room that is never full is room for improvement. So wherever we are, we can do more. We can do more to say, let us become, for example, when in some communities, we are marrying off girls at 14 years, and we are religious leaders in those communities, and we are not speaking. When we hear that in some communities we are going back to retrogressive practices that we left, when I hear that even in central Kenya, there are section of community that are advocating FGM, things that we left many years ago. And when I hear that we are not speaking about it, and elsewhere these things are happening, when a girl drops out of school because she was abused and became pregnant, and what do we do? We allow the elder to sit and give a goat so that this guy is covered and so on. And we are there, and we are not hearing speaking. That's what I'm saying. There is room for improvement. We can do better. And I gave an example of corruption. When the whole society is corrupt and everything, even us, when we want to get title deed for a property of the church, we are told, where's your kuja mikono mitupu? And we are still silent. We need to do more.
Okay.
Yes.
I like how you've answered that question with a lot of wisdom that you can't be pinned, but you've answered it well. Maybe as we wrap up this discussion today, let's talk about, can we say, just briefly, can we say that the church being silent on such issues or morality issues is equated to the church encouraging such vices because it's not speaking up?
If we keep quiet, my community says there is no thief and the watcher. Let me say in the way we say it, there is nobody who is stealing, and the one who is helping because he's looking whether people are coming, and the one who is actually stealing, they are the same. If we keep quiet, we are no better than those people who are committing these things or doing these things.
Okay.
I think we should do more, otherwise we are as guilty. So we can't say that the church is clean, because silence sometimes encourages, and silence encourages and helps to perpetuate the evil. So if we don't speak, we are helping the society to become what it should not be. So I think I speak to all my colleagues in church leadership. We must speak, and we must stop being complacent. We must stop saying it is normal. If it is not right, let us not normalize it. Let us not say it is okay for people to bribe. If somebody does something and is one of us, we should look for a way of covering him. Of course, we should do everything with the grace, but we should make sure that evil is called evil.
Right. I think you've also I wanted to ask you what will be your message to the church. I think you've just done that. Probably your parting shot or your call to action.
Call to action is that as the church and all the members of the church, remember we have a responsibility to be Christians, to be disciples of Christ. Disciples of Christ are followers of what Christ wants done in the families, done in society, done in the church. And when we are out there, remember we represent Christ. Let us remember we are Christ ambassadors wherever we are, and let us do things and encourage things that Christ would approve of those who represent him.
Right. Thank you so much, Rev. I think as we end this, something we should clarify is that when we say the church or religious institutions, we don't mean just the leaders. Even the members, they're part of the church. They can also speak up since they have a voice.
True.
Right.
Christian is everybody who believes in Christ.
Sure.
We are just talking about church leadership to give leadership, but all of us to follow Christ and do what's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for today's conversation. You would have run and say, hey, no, you want to pin us down. But I like the fact that you're here and you acknowledge that indeed we can do more as church, and we need to add our voice on matters, morality to guide the community and illuminate.
True.
All right, I appreciate it. We are taking a very short break right here at Kirk Mid-Morning, but not go too far, because when we come back, we'll be joined by a guest artist of today. So stay tuned to find out who it's going to be. All right.
Oh, thank you very much.
PCEA Githunguri Presbytery invites you for the 2022 Rites of Passage sessions starting from the 5th to 16th of December at Githiga Children's Center. Charges for boys are 8,300 Kenya shillings for the sessions. An alternative rites of passage for girls will start from 12th to 16th December. The charges are 5,300 Kenya shillings. Some of the topics to be covered will be Bible study and Christian growth, communication and relationships, manhood, womanhood and adulthood, self-awareness and peer influence, adolescence and sexuality, drugs and substance abuse, among other impactful topics. Registration is ongoing at all PCEA parishes within Githunguri and at the Githunguri Presbytery office. For more information, get in touch with Githunguri Presbytery office through their number 0721 844 064 0721 844 064. You can also get in touch with Reverend Samuel Gakuya, Mr. George Kagodho, and Reverend Lydia Kahiga. It's Christmas already here at Kirk TV. Are you a business looking to advertise your brand and products to potential customers? Are you looking to improve your sales as we end the year? Starting this October till January 31st, 2023, we are offering you, our customer, various discounts up to 50% off our advertising rates. Imagine paying half the price to reach customers countrywide. Usiwachwe nyuma hii krisi. Call our sales teams now on 0738 278 506 or 0739 971 607. Contact us on email bnkogie@kirktv.org or munyoroku@kirktv.org for more information. Hurry and book now. Pamoja tuvuke mwaka. It's the Kirk TV and your advert bonanza.
Nashindwa niende wapi? Niko gizani nashindwa niende wapi. Yesu wangu, natamani siku zote, kila siku natamani.
Angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji. Niko safarini mpenzi wangu, ninatafuta uwepo wako, na angamia duniani, angamia duniani. Marafiki pia sina, shida nazo zanifuata, ninashindwa niende wapi.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji. Penzi sijui niseme nini, duniani ninateseka sana. Wezi kupita bila kulipa nyumba, bibi kupewa maneno na watu. Kweli ni shida, kweli ni shida, kweli ni shida, kweli ni shida. Penzi ni wewe Mungu ninatafuta, moyo wangu weze kupata upendo wako, upendo wako.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji. Niko safarini mpenzi wangu, ninatafuta uwepo wako, na angamia duniani, angamia duniani. Marafiki pia sina, shida nazo zanifuata, ninashindwa niende wapi. Yesu wangu, natamani siku zote, kila siku natamani.
angamia, Baba naangamia, Yesu naangamia,
Niko gizani nakuhitaji.
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 Yes. Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Ehe.
Yes. What about you?
Mimi niko poa, nashukuru.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here as well.
Thank you so much.
Nasikia sauti better actually.
Thank you so
Better.
much.
Unajua kuna wasanii wengine ukisikiza ngoma ina fiti, wakikuimbia unashangaa you the one, you know.
All the different.
Different. Lakini mimi naweza sema kipaji unacho.
Asante sana,
Nasikia
nashukuru.
naona actually ni better than that version, you know. I'd pay to come live.
Unajua hiyo ni ile time maybe some years
zilipita
Back,
and you know music it's something voice ina growing.
Yes.
The more unaenda ukigrow pia voice inaendanga and then you
Okay.
get an idea. So hata mimi nikisikiza nasema like kuna kitu nilifanya because ile growth yani. Yes.
Karibu Kirk TV.
Thank you so much. Yes, I did appreciate.
Tuambie jina sasa yuko kwa kitambulisho.
Unasemanga ya Mpesa?
Ya Mpesa.
Ya Mpesa naitwa David Thuku Waweru.
All right.
Yes.
Shipboy nayo ilitoka wapi?
Shipboy, it's a long story. You know, in the book of John 10, the Bible is talking about the sheep. I am the sheep. And Jesus Christ, the mchungaji.
Yeah.
So, imetoka in the book of John 10. There's this time I was in high school. Nilikuwa nimesomea soccer. I was in a guarantee soccer academy at the same time in a high school. So nakumbuka kuna time tukacheza ball nikaumia goti na shakaruture. Nikiwa high school ilikuwa ni crab.
Yeah.
So on the process nikakaa kwa darasa. Ikahappen kwa siwezi fanya anything. So niko nimekaa hapo hivi ndio now this song actually mumecheza song ambayo it's a little story at the same time ni kitu nilikuwa najaribu to believe kwa Christ. Unajua kuna zingine mtu anasikia ukitumia jina naangamia. Mtu anasema mzee anaongea tu story tu ya shida. Which sio shida. Mimi na I'm being really to Jesus, Jesus niwasikia nikisema niko gizani because those people are not born again. Wako gizani. So wakati niliumia hapo ndio nikiwa darasani nikajipata nikaanza kufikiria back lifestyle story yangu and that process and where I am right now. So nikaanza kuishikanisha nikajipata nikisema naangamia.
Okay.
Yes.
Unahitaji.
So from there ndio nikapata hiyo jina Shipboy kwa Bible in the book of John 10. So hapo ndio Shipboy ilikuja.
Yes. Kwa hivyo ulianza usanii kitambo? Si
sana. Nilianza 2000 and my first song niliandika nikiwa class 6. But nikakuja kuirecord in 2012 nilikuwa high school. So sikuenda studio. 2013 ndio nilikuja nikarecord. Yes, but music literally nilikuja kwanza in 6 years ago. Yes.
Okay, but tangu uwe mdogo manake unasema class 6 that's where you wrote your first song.
Yes.
Kipaji ulijua tayari niko nayo?
Nilijua kwa kupitia unakumbuka hawa sio wale wanaitwa Maximum Miracles. Hasa kuna time 2002 hasa walikuwa mazee
wameshika
crusade. So that time nilikuwa hapa Mlolongo primary school. So kulikuwa na crusade. Nikajipata I was in class 2 na which isingefaa kuwa class 2. So nilikuwa na stress mbaya. So nilikuwa darasani lakini najua mazee sasa ni watu wadogo na mimi ni mbigi. So nikaendanga crusade. So wakiperform hiyo crusade mzima siku ya kwanza ikahappen kuwa si yuko attract. Unajua kuna ile unasikianga it's like you can go in a praise you're like no I'm not interested in that story, I'm interested to this story. So hapo ndio nilianza kuona wase wakiperform and I was like hata kesho nataka. Sasa nikiwa darasani nilikuwa najiuliza nitaenda saa ngapi? Saa 9 itafika saa ngapi? Saa 8 nitoke niende kwa crusade tu. And hapo after that ndio nikajipata nikiimba songs after your crusade ilisha nikiwa class 2 because I didn't know how to read and write. So on the process I had a challenge of my education background. So and at the same time singe fit kwa class 2. And it happened that hapo sasa ndio nikiwa darasani kina DDON system ya kapungana. Nikaanza kuja ni Bona watafuta watakao kuabudu. So those songs nikajipata nikiimba. Class 6 ndio nilijipata nikiandika song in the way the Bible say that knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Kanika song inasema knock knock door minabisha yawe nifungulie hili niwe nawe yawe don't stop a door ni unisipagawe machozi yangu huyavute yawe.
Wow.
Yes, that was my first. Nikiwa class 6.
Na bado unakumbuka?
Yes.
All right. Safari imekuaje?
Ya music kama life?
Ya music.
Haijakuwa rahisi because number you know music is something ni kama business. If ukianza kama una mse wa kukushika. Naam. And you know music is resources. Music need money. So kuna pata kwangu si kwanga nado kwa music. And it was somehow challenging kwenda studio. But one thing I thank God because there's a time there are some songs zangu za kuanzia hata inaangamia ni kulipiwa, nililipiwa.
Okay.
Nena ndio nilifanya nini, so it was not an easy back then, but music imekuwa it need attention, ni business. Sasa yani inahitaji attention. Venye unaweza every day you wake up in the morning to come up hivi. Music ijakuwa rahisi at the same pia bado na thank God for growth, you know.
Okay.
Unaonanga tofauti. What I was going through last year kwa music si Kenya na. Actually na pia bado kuna idea tofauti nimepata. But nashukuru Mungu. You know ministry saa zingine unachanga Mungu tu. Yeye mwenyewe pale ukifika mwisho yeye mwenyewe ana take over.
Yeah, kweli. Nasikia umetaja ngoma zako kadha, nimengoja utaje nchi yangu hujataja. Hebu tell us about that song.
Nchi yangu Nena. Nena there's this time niliamka nikaambia God. I had people nikasema, nasikia watu usema God upeana song. Sasa mimi nikaambia God, unajua ni aje? Mimi nataka kesho asubuhi nikiamka nataka nipate song. I did Nena. Nena it's my last, nilifanya 2 years ago. Nena nikajipata kwa dream. Kujipata kwa dream venye tu nilimba song yote kwa dream.
Okay.
Nikaamuka nikiimba. Nilijaribu Mungu. Nile unakuanga like tribe. Venye go sema tribe.
Yeah.
Nikajipata nikifanya Nena ikakuja. And then there was another song called Tembea. So I don't know you are talking about Tembea Manena.
Sasa kwenye YouTube imeandikwa nchi yangu.
Oh, nchi yangu. Nchi yangu ni Tembea na mimi. My life story, I was a street boy. So there is this time nilikuwa chudo. Mimi nilikuwa chudo so Mlolongo. So there's this time nilikuwa nimekaa nikaangalia life story yake na Moses. Tembea na mimi that journey. And then nikaanza pia mimi kuangalia God ametembea na mimi. Nasema amenitoa kwa street, nikafungwa, nikapata favor kwa polisi wakawa wakinibaia maziwa na mikate.
Okay.
Nikajipata second sijui kusoma but naangalia vitu. Mimi kuja kujua kusoma 2012 nikiwa form 3. Nikajipata nikisema tembea na mimi Bwana katika safari yangu. Tembea na mimi Yesu, nataka kuishi nawe. Ombi langu kwa nchi yangu, ongoza viongozi wetu. You know, there's a time Kenya tumekuwa tukistrain sana. And I was like, kama God aliongoza wana Israeli, siongoze nchi yetu. So nilikuwa najaribu kumwambia viongozi wetu, like, you know, leaders ndio everything kwa nation. So I was like, God, chip in. So ndio ikakama about our nation. And you know, Kenya pia national bado ni prayer. So and I was like, God, wakati nienda studio nilijipata nikifikiria sana story ya inchi. So nikaona the only thing I can do just nikaa tuombe. Ndio nikaambia God, tembea pia bado na inchi yetu. Yes.
Wow, hebu tusikize kidogo.
Okay.
All right.
Wokovu wangu Bwana, kuwa mwongozo wangu, kwa kuomba kwangu Yesu, nipe mwangaza wako, kwa kuomba kwangu Bwana, nataka kuwa nawe Yahweh, oh Yahweh. Nataka kuishi nawe. Bwana, tuma
Neno lako
kwa nchi yetu Yesu, tupe amani Bwana, tunasema ni wewe Yesu, tunakiri ni wewe Yesu, oh, tunakiri ni wewe Yesu, tunakiri ni wewe Yesu, tunakiri ni wewe Yesu, tunakiri ni wewe Yesu.
Wow, hebu tupe story ya ngoma, manake unasema it's a story about you.
Yes.
Umekuwa street kid, umeishi kwa children's home, kwa hivyo umeimba kama ushuhuda.
Yeah, nimeitwa kama ushuhuda. It was a painful. Actually this song, it was my second song. Na nilisupportiwa ni anaitwa Tony wa Maxton. Nilikuwa natamaningi sana kurecord this song because God alikuwa amenipatia song nikiwa high school form 3. That was 2012. And I was in pain because I was in a struggle, like, you know, ukiwa ni mtoi, you feel like kuna love hauna. So you end up kubaki ni God peke yake. And then najataka kurecord, sina msee anaweza ni support. So nikajipata nimepata 50 bob. Nilikuwa nikipata 50 bob. One day just wake up, nikaamua kwenda kutafuta studio. Nikaenda kutafuta studio, naenda kwa studio, sina pesa. So hiyo naenda kwa studio, naamua kwenda tu kwa studio. So it happened kwa wakati nilienda studio ya kwanza, nikaenda kwa Maximum, they have a studio. Tukaongea na wao, nikamwambia sana nikipata pesa, they told me it is G. Wakati nilitoka hapo, nikaenda Umoja, Maxton Production, nikapata sina pesa na nikabook day.
Kama huna pesa.
Na kasi sina pesa. Nikarudi nyumbani. Na ukumbuke nilikuwa tu na fifu, nilikuwa nikitoka Mlolongo na kujadi Cabanas Mugu. Ana gari 20 bob. And then from Cabanas paka Umoja 1 Mugu. And it happened kwa nikiandika hizo nilipata grace. Ukisikiza song sijaimba sana story ya shida. Na jaribu kuambia God that Jesus I take over. And nilijipata kwa studio nikiimba, sikuwa na ile grace ya kuandika challenges zangu. But nilikuwa na try venye God anaweza kuwa open kwake kwa Jesus. Like, Jesus, I need you in this. My nation, there's a problem. When I go to houses, when I sit with the friends, there is a problem. And then I come, God, I need you in your word. You know, word ya God ni kitu funny. Ni kitu fai kusoma kama novel. Because ukisoma kama novel, that is why the people there sometimes wanapata unasoma word uelewi. But I was like, God, tunakuhitaji. Kwa nchi yangu, tunakuhitaji. Everyone ana cry. Sasa utalilia nani?
Yeah.
God, we need you. We need your word. Because when you have the word of God, it is easy for you kupata liberation through the Holy Spirit. So it is a prayer song.
A prayer song.
Yes.
Wow. Hata ukisikiza nyewe iko very touchy.
Yes.
Unaona kwamba it's like a situation you're inviting God over.
Yes.
Unaambia kuja utembe na mimi, you take over.
Yes,
mimi nitakufollow.
True.
Kumbe kuna ushuhuda nzito nyuma yake.
Kuna ile ilikuwa na ni ushuhuda kwa sababu kama sasa hata mwenyewe ukiimba hiyo wimbo and then God made it to be like nikiimba, unajua there are some song ukiimba unajipata unaimbia mtu mwingine. But this song wewe hata nikikwambia uimbe tembea na mimi Bwana, it is like wewe ndio unaomba, sasa inakuwa sasa ni wewe.
Yes.
So I let them for that. That is all about that.
Na hii challenge yetu umepitia, nasikia sijui una pesa, unatembea kutoka Cabanas to Umoja, hiyo ni distance
kubwa sana. Yes.
I'm thinking ni nini ilikufanya usife moyo? Why didn't you give up? Umeendelea tu kushikilia?
Kwa sababu number 1, nilikamu kupata kwa vitu zingine zote na jidharau. So God wakati nilijua I can sing, na kwa children somo wameanza kuni appreciate because I can sing. I don't know how to write, I don't know how to read, na niko form 3. Na jidharau nilikuwa nikijipata. Hii song ndio ilifanya nianze sasa kujikubali. Kuna kumbe kuna kitu ina attract watu kwangu. So hiyo ndio ilianza kuniamsha, like kuniamsha that song. Yes.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And since then, you have been revived.
Yeah, so from there, I remember
Yeah.
this time from 3, actually from 3 everything came to turn in my life about education even, right? And I told God, one day nikamwambia God ni aje, nimechaguliwa kuwa si ama na sijui kusoma na kuandika. Sasa ni mimi na wewe nataka tu nipatie tu grace ya kujua kusoma. Naweza kusoma ABCD nikiwa high school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Unfortunately time haiko on our side.
Thank you so much.
Tunashukuru sana umekuja. Tumesikia ushuhuda wako, story yako. I think for me ni tu situation yote ile unapitia usi give up. Because at the end of the day there's a hope for a better tomorrow.
True.
Alika God kwa maisha yako akuongoze.
Thank you so much.
And trust in him. Mimi ndio hiyo nimelani kutoka kwako because usikiza hivyo venye huja kufa moyo hiyo yote you're a testimony.
Thank you so much. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Salamu. Mafans wanauliza ngoma mpya inatoka lini?
I have a new song. By the way, mwezi ndio nafani shoot wimbo. There's a new song is coming nasema wastahili. Wastahili is now naambia God wastahili song unapatanga God anapatianga title fulani. Niko na wastahili na pia there's another song nimefanya inaitwa ya Kikuyu.
Great.
Gukoma gwako nagokera limagerero na yodokero. So naingia. That is my new song that is coming.
Amazing.
Yes. To all my fans, thank you so much. Watu wote wanatazama, thank you so much. May God bless you so much and just know that you are the best. Ningependa basi pia bado tell my big family Heritage of Faith Children's Home and all my friends Facebook. One thing nimekuja kujua. Kwa media you get like kuna watu pia wako followers wako wana watch. I call them pia bado one of fans because they are there. Kwa sababu pia bado kuna wengine waliona. So God awabariki sana. Please go to YouTube, support my ministry. Facebook, my songs they are there.
Facebook unajitaje?
Shipboy Thuku ya double E.
Shipboy Thuku.
Kondo kijana.
Alright, so tutamaliza na Nena Bwana.
Yes, Nena Bwana.
Amesema there's new music coming in. Kwa hivyo zidi kutegea pale kwenye YouTube, Facebook, Shipboy Thuku. My name is Faith Kaulu. Tunakuacha na Nena Bwana Shipboy Thuku. Tumalizia nayo.
Nakuhitaji uniongoze kwa neno lako, unifunze kusoma Bwana, natamani kufunzwa nawe, nitumie na Roho wako, aniongoze kwa neno lako, anifunze kusoma kuelewa, natamani kufunzwa naye.
Nena Bwana,
nena na moyo wangu,
nena na roho yangu,
nena na mwili wangu, nena kwa neno lako, naomba nene Bwana,
nena na moyo wangu,
nena na moyo wangu,
nena na mwili wangu,
nena na mwili wangu, nena kwa neno lako, naomba nene Bwana. Na mwezi huu nakuhitaji, uniongoze kwa kazi yako, unifunze kufanya kazi, natamani kufunzwa nawe. Na wiki hii nakuhitaji, uniongoze kwa kazi zangu, unifunze kufanya kazi, natamani kufunzwa nawe. Unene kwa nchi yako,
unene Baba,
unene kwa nyumba yako,
unene Yesu,
unene na watu wako, twaomba unene Bwana, nena na moyo wangu, nena na mwili wangu, nena kwa neno lako, naomba nene Bwana, nena na moyo wangu, nena na mwili wangu, nena kwa neno lako, naomba nene Bwana. Ukinena nitaishi, ukinena nitokoka, ukinena nitapona. Naomba